Hey, what's up? Welcome to the channel. My name is Arthur, and this is From the Void. Hey, so in this video we'll be taking a look at one of my collections. You guys helped me decide between the PlayStation 4 and the Switch, and the PlayStation 4 won by 68% of the votes. So in the future we can take a look at some of my other collections, including some retro ones, but today it's all about the PlayStation 4. I have a bit over 85 games for the PlayStation 4, and even though the Switch is where I concentrate most of my indies and smaller titles, you're still seeing some weird lesser known games on the PlayStation 4. So I think this could get interesting. So let's dig in. Okay, here's where I keep all my games, behind these two closet doors. So yeah, those are jam-packed. Let's take a look. As you can see, it's far from an ideal situation. I have games behind games here, but at the present this is all the space I have, so I have to make it work. I'll just give you a quick tour here. In the bottom I keep all my PlayStation 1 and my PlayStation 3 games on the back. Up one shelf we have the Vitas on one side and the PSPs on the other side, and the GameCubes in the middle. Then the start of the show for this episode, my PlayStation 4 collection over here. You can see it's games behind games behind games. Then a few of my DS titles here. The DS is actually my biggest collection, but the rest is inside the other door. I'll show that in a second. Then up one more are my Switch games. I have 3 stacks of Switch games here, and then on the back is my lonely Wii U collection. Probably my smallest one, just cause the system had a very limited catalog. Then on the right side, one stack of my 3DS collection, which continues up on the higher shelf, here and there. And finally my Wii collection, 2 stacks up here. The Wii has some awesome unexplored hidden gems because the catalog is so huge and full of shovelware that the hidden gems are really buried deep down. I think this one would make a great video too. I plan on showcasing the Wii at some point. Now the other door is actually an embarrassment. I plan on adding shelves to this side at some point, but right now it's basically a huge stack of games, which is needless to say not the right way to store them. On the right side we have the rest of my DS collection in 2 big stacks. Then on the left side is my PlayStation 2 collection, which is probably my second largest one, also in 2 huge stacks. And in the middle my Xbox 360 collection in 1 even bigger stack, so that I can have access to games in the back. Yeah, this is awful, I know. My old school cartridges are kept in higher up closets. I'm not gonna show those now, but maybe another time. So now let's get to the PlayStation 4 collection. Let's start the showcase with RPGs. The PlayStation 4 has a strong RPG catalog, especially the mainline stuff, beginning with Persona 5 Royal. Yeah, here's one thing about recent game collecting. Waiting usually pays off in a huge way, not only cause the game gets cheaper, but even more so because they end up releasing enhanced versions. Whenever you are interested in a game, take a look at the track record for that company or franchise. Case in point here, Atlus always does this with the Persona franchise, but not so much with the mainline Megami Tensei games. So in this case, I waited a lot, and then Royal version came out and I jumped right in. I don't need to say much about Persona 5, right? It's a phenomenal RPG. Next is my Vanillaware collection here. Those here are all games that Vanillaware released for the PlayStation 4. Dragon's Crown, Odin Sphere, and 13 Sentinels. This developer is absolutely fantastic. They haven't made a single bad game yet, not even close. They're all excellent. Both Dragon's Crown and Odin Sphere are remasters, and they are fantastic side-scroller action RPGs mixed with beat-em-ups. Great games with awesome characters, even though Dragon's Crown has some very exaggerated exaggerated art designs that over-sexualizes the characters, both male and female, which was something that people really criticized this game for. But the gameplay is undeniably solid, which is also true for 13 Sentinels, which is a mix of strategy with visual novel. This isn't a RPG actually, but it just made more sense to put all Vanillaware games together. Next are Trails of Cold Steel 3 and 4. 1 and 2 were also ported over to the PlayStation 4 and Switch too, but they were originally released for the PlayStation 3 and Vita, and I have the Vita versions. These are my favorite classic-style modern turn-based RPGs for sure. I simply love the battle system in these games. I haven't yet played 3 or 4, but I did the first 2 on the Vita, and according to the reception, 3 and 4 are also excellent. Next here is Dragon Quest XI. Now this is one that I messed up. I should have waited more because they released an enhanced version for the Switch. So I bought that one as well, and I'm not gonna play this one, which is actually my next Dragon Quest that I will play. I have been going through all the Dragon Quest games in order since the very first one, and I finished 9 last year, and 10 is not available to us. Only in Japanese, and it's an MMO, which is not my favorite thing at all. So I'm really hoping that they decide to localize the offline version of Dragon Quest X, which they announced very recently, to English so that we can finally play it. So let's see. Next is Ni no Kuni 2. I really like the Ni no Kuni franchise. It's a bit too childish, but endearing and with a great gameplay. The two games are very different, and you don't need to have played the first one to fully enjoy the second, but I preferred the original, where they mixed action RPG with Pokemon for the battle system, and it works pretty well. But Ni no Kuni 2 is also a solid RPG. Next are the Tales of games. I went for the PlayStation 4 version of Zestiria, which people seem to see as one of the worst in the series, but I liked it. I don't know. To me, Tales of Hearts is the worst one I've played so far, at least. Zestiria was way better, I don't know. Berseria, on the other hand, is seen as excellent by everybody, as far as I know. It has a more gothic vibe, which I liked, and the characters are great too. And combat-wise, all Tales games are great, even Hearts. And the more recent Tales of Arise I haven't played yet, so I can't say much about it, but I hear very good things. Next is Torment Tides of Numenera. I also have not played this because my OCD prevents me from doing so, as I want to play Planescape first, even though they are not even in the same world or anything. Tides of Numenera is just a spiritual successor to Planescape, but I hear very good things about both titles, so I'm looking forward to this. Continuing here with the Kingdom Hearts series, it took me a while to get into this franchise. I have so far only played the original, and I don't have the third one yet, but I'm not in a hurry because it's gonna take a while for me to get there. I also got Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory here. I actually really like the rhythm-based games from Square Enix. I finished both Final Fantasy Theater Rhythm games on the 3DS, and those are awesome. I really wish they localized the Dragon Quest games as well, but I'm happy that Kingdom Hearts also got it for the PlayStation 4 here. Then, a must-play in my opinion, absolute must-play in my opinion for anybody, even non-RPG fans, is Final Fantasy VII Remake, of course. I actually got the special edition that comes with the Steelbook and art book, which are awesome, and I don't need to say how fantastic is this game, right? I feel like it is the evolution of turn-based RPGs actually. You can try playing it as a hack and slash for the most part, but the more challenging stuff, especially in the hard mode, will require you to treat it as a turn-based game, and it's a way more awesome way to play this game. I love it. It's my second favorite game of all time actually. Then the rest of the Final Fantasy games on the PlayStation 4, I have 10 and 10-2 here. I got this pack because back in the day I finished 10 without the 100% completion, which unlocks the true ending, so I want to do that at some point. But I'm probably not playing 10-2 again. I mean, I really liked it, the job system was really cool, but the story kinda lost me at some point, and the idol thing was really weird, especially in the beginning, because I don't know, I didn't buy that Yuna from 10 would become an idol like that. It felt a little bit far-fetched, but the game is great actually, worth playing for sure. Then Final Fantasy 12, this is the next Final Fantasy I'll be finishing. Just like Dragon Quest, I'm also going through each mainline Final Fantasy since the original. I'm actually alternating between the two series. So last year I finished Dragon Quest 9 and then Final Fantasy 9, and next is gonna be Dragon Quest 11. But on the Final Fantasy side, I have already finished 10, 10-2, 11 I'll be skipping because it's an MMO and I don't really like those. So I'm going straight to 12, which is a very important hole in my backlog that I want to cover as soon as possible. And then we have 15 here. I got the Royal Edition. I wanted to wait for a real definitive edition because this one doesn't have all the DLC that came out, but I don't think they're gonna be doing that at this point anymore. So about a year or so ago, I just said screw it and got the Royal Edition. And then Type 0, finally. I have no idea when I'll be playing this one. I don't know much about it. And next is Fairy Fencer F. I put this one close to the Final Fantasies because some of the original staff that worked on the old school Final Fantasies also worked on Fairy Fencer F. Most notably Yoshitaka Amano for the artwork, and Nobuo Uematsu also made a few songs for it. And it's a cool game actually. It's a pretty satisfying turn-based RPG with a lot to offer. And next to that is Indivisible. I covered this game recently. This is an excellent side-scroller RPG with a great battle system. It's turn-based but very dynamic and really interesting. I also really like the main protagonist and the whole story is great. Next is Tokyo Xanadu EX Plus. This game is fantastic. It's for sure a hidden gem or a underappreciated, underrated, whatever you want to call it, which I covered in my PlayStation 4 Hidden Gems video recently. You can see that in the description if you'd like. This is also an enhanced version. The original one is on the Vita, and it's really worth to get this version because there is a whole side story focusing on the White Shroud character, which is really cool. Tokyo Xanadu is an action RPG, kind of hack and slashy, but really well balanced in the difficulty. Great game here. Next is Fairy Tail. This is an anime adaptation. I've never watched the anime, but the game is solid. This is old school turn-based with several interesting characters and interesting plot lines as well. And the combat is decent too. I still need to finish this one, but I liked what I've played of it. Then next to that is Dragon Star Varner. This also received mediocre reviews, but I slightly disagree. The combat system paired with the devouring mechanism as well as the art style are very satisfying. I agree that the story never really pays off fully and the cutscenes are poorly presented, but the battles overcompensate, resulting in a 7.5 or so in my view, so I think this is underrated and it's a cool turn-based RPG, Dragon Star Varner. Next are the Valkyria Chronicles games. I have so far only finished the remastered version of the original here, as well as the sequel on the PSP. But I also have Revolution here, which is very different gameplay wise. I only played it a little bit, but I like it so far. Chronicles 4 I don't have yet, but I will be getting at some point. I'm not in a hurry because I actually think I'll be playing the third one first, which is also a PSP exclusive that only came out in Japan, but there are fan translations for it, so I'll probably try doing that. And finally, to close off the RPG section, .hack GU Last Recode. This is a remastered collection of the PlayStation 2 originals with a bunch of extra stuff. I wish they would make something similar for the other .hack games, because those are also expensive as hell. I like this franchise, but I realize those are very hard games to get into. They simulate an MMO world, but especially for the GU series, it's much more fluid than an MMO, so I like it. Although the gameplay can get repetitive. So I'm spacing them out. I only played the first one so far. Moving on to shooters. Most of these are very well known AAA titles, so I'll run through them quickly, but there are some lesser known here worth mentioning. Starting off with Doom and Doom Eternal. I don't need to say much about these, simply fantastic first-person shooters, mind-blowing fast-paced action, and Eternal manages to improve significantly on an already spectacular game that was Doom 2016. So these are must-plays right here if you're into shooters. Then the Wolfenstein series. This is yet another attempt on rebooting the franchise. They tried this a few times, but this is the one that worked out the best. Until it didn't, it seems. Both the New Order and the New Colossus are solid first-person shooters, very challenging, very satisfying. The story is all kinds of bonkers, especially the second one, and it's a great time. But I did not get Young Blood because it was heavily criticized. It's still on my list, but I'm now unsure. Let me know if you guys liked it. Do you recommend Youngblood for someone who liked the first two? Let me know in the comments. Next is Panzer Dragoon. This is an on-rails shooter, remaster of the Sega Saturn original, and I gotta say it's a lot of fun, and it's short but sweet, especially for someone like me who never played the original. Just do not attempt going for the 100% completion because it's just ludicrous. Alright, moving on to Matterfall. I'm a big fan of developer Housemarque. Next Machina is simply one of my favorite PlayStation 4 games period, so Matterfall was a no-brainer pick for me. Sure enough, it has the same fast-paced shooting goodness, but I prefer the top-down view to the side-scroller one from Matterfall, and this game is way shorter than Next Machina, but still a great time. Pick it up, it's a fun game. Next is Titanfall 2. I'm not a big online competitive shooter fan, so I was fine with skipping the original Titanfall, even though the mecha stuff in it really caught my attention. But I was happy to jump in Titanfall 2 when I learned it had a kick-ass campaign that went really well with this game's gameplay. This to me is another must-play first-person shooter, and one that I feel like a lot of people skipped, unfortunately. Next, and keeping the mecha theme from Titanfall, is Zone of the Enders, the second runner Mars. This is a Kojima mecha game full of anime cutscenes. It's probably not a shooter per se, as it has both ranged as well as melee combat, but whatever, I'm placing it here. Cool game remastered from the PlayStation 2 with even VR support, which must be crazy. Then MGS5, Definitive Experience, that comes with Ground Zeroes. Yeah, most of you probably know this even better than I do, so I'll just keep going here. The Last of Us Remastered, another very well-known game. I loved it, but I haven't played the sequel yet, believe it or not. We'll be doing that soon. Then Metro Redux, this is a remaster of two games, Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light. There is a third one that I don't own yet, but no hurries because I've played only 2033 so far. These are solid first-person shooters with a bit of horror vibes and pretty cool. Next is a very obscure game, Chromia Omega. This is a starship shooter. The controls are hard to get, but allow for a lot of freedom to move about in these very abstract locations, and the best aspect of this game are the boss fights. They are huge and menacing and hard to figure out what to do, but pretty cool once you do. I liked Chromia, it's a budget game for sure, but worth a look. Then Uncharted Lost Legacy. I did finish this entire series, but a friend lended to me all the other Uncharted games, so I don't own 4 for the PlayStation 4 or any other one, but Lost Legacy I decided to buy as it was pretty cheap. Great games, everyone knows about them, so I'll just keep going. And to close off, another very well-known title, Resident Evil 7. I liked it, it's a great change to the series. I wish I could have played it on VR, as I hear great things about it, but maybe in the future when I can afford one. And that's it for shooters. The next section here are action games. Starting off with the God of War series, this is one of my favorite series ever. I was a big fan of the old school ones, especially 1, 2 and Ghost of Sparta, but God of War 2018 is just on a whole other league. This is fantastic, I played the hell out of it, including all the Valkyries in hard mode and everything. This is great, and I can't wait for Ragnarok. Next is Batman Arkham Knight. I liked it better than most. Asylum still remains as my favorite one in the series. I like the more compact sandbox style better, but I liked every one of them, including Origins and Knight. Next is Spider-Man, another home run from Insomniac and Sony. This is fantastic. I still haven't played Miles Morales though. I need to do that soon. Then Ghost of Tsushima is another unbelievable hit from Sony. You all know about this pretty well, so let's move on. Next is the first and only Assassin's Creed I got for the PlayStation 4, and this one marked my departure from the series. I finished every single mainline one prior to Unity, and I was already getting really tired of the yearly releases, and this one just pushed me over the edge and I never came back. I hear great things about the more recent ones, Valhalla and Odyssey, but I also dislike the fact that they became so long. I mean, Assassin's Creed games were already long enough, but they pretty much tripled the length, and I don't like that. so I don't know if I'll ever come back to the series, let's see. Then Horizon Zero Dawn, another fantastic Sony exclusive. I played it to oblivion and I can't wait for the sequel. Then Watch Dogs is also pretty well known, as well as The Last Guardian, which I liked a lot. I didn't have any problems with Trico. His behavior was a common complaint about the game, but he was a pretty good little griffin to me. Another well-known title here is Nier Automata, fantastic as well. This franchise is kind of long running actually, dates all the way back to the PlayStation 2 with the Drakengard games, and it's a testament of how franchises sometimes need time to mature and blossom. If Square Enix had pulled the rug under Yoko Taro for the underwhelming reception that the Drakengard games got, we would never have the Nier games, which now became a AAA franchise. I plan on getting Replicant at some point, even though I played the original but not the brother Nier version, right? So that could be cool to play both of them. Another case in point of what I was saying, but one that had a sad ending instead, is Gravity Rush 2. Sony gave up on this franchise even though it had so much potential to become a big one. The gameplay is still very unique to these games. Even though many others have attempted the gravity manipulation aspect, none do it quite like Gravity Rush. And the story and characters are great, just a phenomenal series, even though it never received the AAA treatment from Sony, who instead just shut down the entire Sony Japan studio, which is just a huge shame. Huge shame on Sony for this. Anyway, moving on. Darksiders 3. I love this series. It's a perfect AA series to me, and we need more of those. So I was happy to support them with this one and with Genesis, which I got for the Switch. I love the protagonist this time, which is Fury. I love her weapon, her whole personality, and I like the setting going back to Earth that we saw only in the beginning of Darksiders 1. I thought that was pretty cool. I liked Darksiders 3 very much. Next are the 3 Shenmue games. I got those very recently and I haven't played any of them yet, but I'm sure I will like them for the story at least. Then Black Clover Quartet Knights. This one deceived me. I'm always looking out for underrated games that critics disliked but have potentials to be 7s. But this one is straight up a 5 or a 6 at best. It's just shallow. It's divided in missions that become repetitive, especially since they incentivize to replay most of them to compensate for an otherwise short campaign mode. The action looks great but starts feeling dull and repetitive very soon. Moving on to The Sinking City. I covered this in my PlayStation 4 Hidden Gems video. You can check it out for more details in the description. But to put it short, this one deserved more recognition in my opinion. It's half a detective game with meaningful gameplay aspects for the detective work and half an open world action game. The action is rather janky, I admit, and will require patience on your side until you get it. But if you have it, there is a lot to enjoy in this weird place, which is literally a sinking city, which I found to be a great setting for a game. Next is Monkey King Hero is Back, yet another that I covered in the Hidden Gems video. Great game, it looks and plays perfectly fine, probably much better than you think. Then next is The Witch and the Hundred Knight 1 and 2. Now this is problematic. The gameplay is fun actually. There's a lot to do and the stuff the Hundred Knight can do is pretty cool, but the story and the main protagonist's personality is in such bad taste. You have no idea. She is despicable and not in a good way at all. So it's hard to recommend these games, only if you are okay with ignoring the story and characters completely. Dusk Diver. This is a Musou type hack and slash because of the amount of enemies at once, and it has a pretty satisfying combat actually, which goes really well with the pretty cool set of characters. I really like the main girl's hair when she's transformed, and her moves are pretty awesome, plus she can summon the other characters to come in and do a few blows and disappear, which is a neat addition to this type of combat. I liked Dusk Diver, but not the locations nor the story, which is just a bunch of nonsense. I found myself skipping a lot of it. People gave this mediocre scores like 5s and 6s, but I liked it a bit better. To me this is a solid 7. 2 games that I just forgot to include in the big section, they were supposed to be there, but those are the 2 classic style Musou games that I have in my collection. Dynasty Warriors 8, Extreme Legends Complete Edition, and Arslan, The Warriors of Legend. I like me some Musou every once in a while, you know. very mindless, but very fun. I was way into these on the PlayStation 2 with Dynasty Warriors 3 and 4. Then I fell out for a long time, but decided to see where the franchise is at with 8. This is the most complete classic style Musou game ever, probably. So many characters, like over 50 probably, I don't know. So many modes, a long campaign, everything you can hope for from a Dynasty Warriors is here. So if you want some classic Chinese Dynasty hack and slash, this is the one. Arslan is also very cool. It's very faithful to the original source, but I have only played it a little bit so far. Still in the action category, I separated these ones because they are similar and there are lots of them. These are Souls and Souls-like, of course. I really enjoy this type of game. I haven't played all of them yet because they can be very overwhelming, so I'm spacing them out. So far I have finished Demon Souls, the original on the PlayStation 3, Dark Souls 1 and Bloodborne, which is my absolute favorite. It's actually my third favorite game of all time, I adore it. I will be playing all the other ones including Sekiro here, which I only hear good things about, and Elden Ring of course, it's probably going to be great as well. I also got Nioh and Bound by Flame here, which are Souls-like. I got them really cheap, especially Bound by Flame, which was like $2, but I know it's probably not very good. Next is all the Yakuza games. This is amazing actually, that the entire franchise of Yakuza can be played on the PlayStation 4. That's incredible. Congrats to Sega for this. We have 0 here, which is chronologically the beginning of the story. Then 1 and 2 were remade from the PlayStation 2 to the PlayStation 4 with the added title Kiwami. Then 3, 4 and 5, which were originally released on the PlayStation 3, were remastered over to the PlayStation 4. And then finally 6, which is the more recent one in this normal style action game. They're just great games. I'm looking to get Like a Dragon soon as well. And with that, we're done with the action games. Let's move on. Now for the final segment, I just left everything else that wouldn't really fit the other categories. First we have a few platformers here. Of course my main platforming system is the Switch. There's no denying that the Switch is the most prolific in terms of platformers, but a few titles I decided to get on the PlayStation 4. First is the Crash Remake Trilogy and Insane Trilogy. This one I actually got as a gift, but it fits the PlayStation very well actually. By the way, very weird that this franchise will become very soon a Microsoft franchise. How crazy is that? But anyway, I had never played any Crash game actually, because I had the N64 and not the PlayStation 1, so this was cool. I really enjoyed this trilogy. Then the 2 Yooka-Laylee games I got on the PlayStation 4 physically. Impossible Lair is the better one for sure. It's actually a side-scroller like Donkey Kong Country Returns, and it's excellent. The original is a weaker 3D platformer that did not manage to live up to the hype, but I hope they keep trying, because it was a good attempt. Then Ratchet & Clank, the remake of the original, another one that I missed back in the day and played only recently. Pretty cool game too, nothing mind-blowing, but holds up pretty well. And finally Fist, Forged in Shadow Torch, which I featured in my top indies of 2021. You can check that out in the description. This is an excellent Metroidvania, with beautiful graphics and really solid gameplay. And after that is my one and only fighting game on the PlayStation 4, Samurai Shodown. At some point I will get other fighting games, I do like them. I was very into Mortal Kombat 9, so at some point I'm planning on grabbing both 10 and 11, but Samurai Shodown is pretty awesome. I was a fan of the original, which I played a lot on the SNES, so it was cool to see the franchise evolved. Next, a few adventure games with not a lot of action involved. First, A Way Out. I played this all the way through with my wife and we enjoyed it very much, although the ending was a little unexpected, but an excellent time I had playing this with the missus. Then Concrete Genie, which got a very lukewarm reception from everyone, but I gave it a shot nonetheless and I'm happy I did. It's a weird game, but enjoyable for sure. The plot revolves around the topic of bullying, which is interesting, and the gameplay is about reviving a dead town with art, which I also liked. Cool game for sure. And to close off the entire showcase is one of my favorite games on the system, Outer Wilds. What a phenomenal game this is. It's for sure a very intimidating one because this is a pure physics-based game. They actually created a whole miniature scale universe in here with the actual laws of physics, and it's a marvel, let me tell you. You'll go about exploring little planets and falling into black holes and learning a bit at a time. You have complete freedom to explore, which makes this an open universe. The gameplay works on a loop system. Every time you die, which will happen a lot, you start over, but carry with you the knowledge you acquired. Story is also very impressive. This is an excellent game. A must play in my opinion if you're a patient person. And that's it for the showcase. I hope you enjoyed and found some interesting games on it. Let me know if you liked it and I can keep making those. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.